very much, Chairperson, and thanks, Sinead and Susanna, for your opening statements. I have a lot of questions, let's be honest, and I'll try and go through them as quick as possible. I suppose I'll start with the inshore sector, because they were the first who contacted me. I was at the AGM of the Irish Southwest Fishermen's Fish Producers Organisation. I was invited there on Saturday and, got quite a lot of insight into the issues that are out there, the problems that are a lot of fishermen are facing, and a lot of questions that they need answering. I suppose one of the questions that was posed to us at the end, and maybe I should leave it to the end, is what can fishermen do to turn the negative feeling that's out there towards fishermen? And it is very easy for me to see that, and that's not an issue for you to not taking issue with you at all on this issue. But the two ministers for finance spoke about the budget last week, and they spoke about almost everything, but they never mentioned the word fishing or fisheries. Our funds for fisheries. So that's a question I'm going to ask again at the very end, and you might be able to answer. But in relation to the inshore sector, I'll start with, as I said, they contacted me first. In June 2023, the National Inshore Fishermen's Association wrote to the Minister asking for a seat on the Celtic Sea Herring Advisory Committee. In October 2023, they wrote again asking for a seat. When the Minister appeared last before the Joint Oireachtas Committee on the 19th of June 2024, they were told it was under consideration. It's now been over 12 months. Has the Minister made a decision on that?
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Cahir. Look, thank you, Deputy. Just to clarify on that, a letter will be issuing shortly, and I apologise for the delay, Deputy Collins. It's just, unfortunately, it was just an oversight, but we'll be in correspondence with them shortly to confirm their admission to the committee.
And that will happen very soon.
It will indeed.
Thanks
yes,
very much.
Absolutely.
Has the Minister looked into a yearly financial scheme for the department as well? Like, because I mean, your ultimate role is to, I suppose, protect fishermen out there too. Have you looked into a yearly financial scheme for inshore fishermen?
So definitely a yearly financial scheme in what sense?
I suppose.
In addition to the ones that we have?
Yeah, well, yeah, because I just kind of connects into the next question. Well, the money the Minister announced under the inshore assessment scheme was welcome, and they welcomed that and appreciated by the inshore sector. The amount that is going to be given doesn't come close to what is needed. There is not a crewman or an inshore boat in Ireland who has not lost 10,000 a year with the last few years. And they are asking for a support scheme to be put together for the inshore fishermen in Ireland, and it needs to be given before Christmas. So basically they're saying there needs to be a scheme put in place that they can guarantee that is going to compensate them for the difficulties that they are going through. Because you have the pelagic fleet, and I'll be talking about them in a minute, but definitely the inshore sector are suffering quite a lot, and a lot of them have told me they can't meet mortgages. They could lose their homes the way things are going. And there's something needs to be, we need to look long term here at this and see is there a solution that we could put in place for these inshore fishermen.
Okay. But I suppose, Deputy, there are a number of schemes open at the moment, and that do service the inshore sector. So in the 8 schemes that were opened in 2024, we had the inshore fisheries schemes, and that provides dedicated or targeted supports for small-scale coastal vessels. In terms of the lobster V-notching scheme, that has also been opened. There is a sustainable fisheries scheme, the young fisher scheme, and then most recently the Minister announced the inshore fleet economic assessment scheme. And I think key to this particular scheme is that it is intended to support the economic development of the inshore fleet. So you're aware from your interactions with inshore fishers that the data available is very scarce and perhaps inconsistent. And what we have worked with BIM is that they will actually gather data with fishers on key areas, including market and economic factors, such as prices, market access, supply chains, social institutional factors, such as transport, logistics, credit, financial services, a lot of socioeconomic and demographic data, and also some of their technical and innovative practices. And what that's designed to do, and the fishers will be compensated for taking part in that, is that it will add to the information that was gathered in the 2023 census. And using that information, it will allow us, I suppose, construct and work on supports and services where we can actually most help those inshore fishers.
Thank you.
In the absence of data, Deputy, to construct a scheme that will have the most impact, that can be difficult. So this particular inshore scheme, economic assessment scheme, is one that the Minister worked very closely with the inshore sector on and delivered on earlier in September.
So, well, the department, you see, a lot of these guys are, obviously, they're self-employed, okay, so they spend a lot of time due to different circumstances outside the water. They can't go in because of maybe weather, because of seasonal reasons that they're not allowed to fish. So have the department ever made, have looked in the commitment to have this, we'll say, the department team, the minister's team, work with the Department of Social Welfare to try and come up with something to bridge the gaps in income for inshore caused by the loss of fisheries, given that they're self-employed fishermen are entitled to next to nothing at present. So what happens here is they're at home, they're making nothing. They're looking out the window, they want to go to fish. They're not allowed for one reason or another. And they're not allowed to sign on. So they have spent, like a lot of employees in fortunate situations, lose their job. After 7 or 8 months, they're entitled to draw down some bit of money for a month or two until they get back out there to get employment. Seasonal workers, like tourism workers. It's not happening here. And it's not happening here. And the department needs to be sitting with the Department of Social Welfare, and they need to draw up a scheme that makes it allowable for inshore fishermen to at least draw down some that are self-employed, draw down unemployment while they're out of work. And that's what I think they're asking me to relay that message to you, that you might fight that corner for them, because they're not able to fight it with the welfare. Social welfare won't give them anything.
Okay, well, I suppose, Deputy, this is an issue that was raised by the inshore earlier in the year, and we did engage with the Department of Social Protection in terms of what was available to fishers. Many fishers compared it to pharmacist in terms of support from the Department of Social Protection. So what we have, I suppose, been advised is that there is a programme called Fish Assist, and it is available to self-employed fishers on low incomes under the means tested job seekers allowance scheme, and it is based on the conditions around the pharmacist scheme. One of the key differences, and this is information supplied to me by Social Protection, one of the key differences applied to the self-employed fishers is the favourable treatment of income through additional disregards, and under that scheme, gross income derived from self-employment is assessed at 70%, and there's additional disregards in respect to dependent children. So in addition, there's secondary benefits, such as the fuel allowance that may be payable and from the start of the claim, and again that's subject to the relevant conditions. That's for the self-employed. In addition, persons engaged in share fishing may also be eligible for job seekers benefit depending on the circumstances. So again, that will depend on the class of PRSI, and again additional needs payments are available to cover essential expenses. And the Department of Social Protection have, I suppose, recommended that any of the fishers in those circumstances do come to their intro office and engage with them on them. But in terms of a scheme similar to Farm Assist, I think is where you were going, there is a scheme called Fish Assist.
I know that, but I find it very difficult, self-employed, I find it very difficult to get at. I have to move on because my questions, I have a lot of questions. Can the department tell us if they have tried to source better markets for crab and shrimp out there?
The market for crab and shrimp, there's work done both by BIM and on board BIA. I'm going to refer to my colleague Suzanne, who's just actually spent 3 days at a brown crab working group, who might be able to add some context to that. So if I may, Cathaoirleach.
Hi, thank you, Cathaoirleach. Thank you, Deputy. Thank you, Sinead. What I have heard reported back from Board BIA is that they feature brown crab very significantly in their overseas marketing, particularly into the Asian markets. They would describe it as one of their, I suppose, star stocks. I don't have an up-to-date briefing note to hand from them, but actually due to get one shortly from them. But we can certainly supply some further information to the Deputy in relation to that if you'd like it. And again, I wouldn't have detail in relation to shrimp markets to hand, but certainly Board BIA places significant effort into marketing Irish seafood, in particular Irish shellfish. So, like I say, I can get some up-to-date briefing in terms of recent marketing efforts and pass that on.
Okay.
I think one of the issues is that the shrimp market is primarily a Spanish target market, and there has been an oversupply of shrimp in recent years, and that may be affecting prices.
Yeah, but the whole point is that we need to be looking at new markets out there. It's a very serious issue going forward. for the inshore sector. So I'd appreciate that. Maybe you might furnish me some information and see where we're going, and we might be able to work on that. I'd like to move on to the pelagic fishermen. I suppose their worst fears were yet again realised last week when the ICES advice for mackerel was once again to cut it by 22%. Why should countries like Ireland have to suffer further cuts when they have been fishing to scientific advice? They were dealt a blow in Brexit of 25% slash to mackerel, and they were given a payment last Christmas. The payment was the equivalent of 1 year's loss for their lifetime loss of this quota. With ever increasing costs, something needs to be done to help out these businesses. Some of these vessel owners had made massive investments in renewing their vessels and had been dealt this hammer blow. Why is Ireland not standing up and not allowing Norway access to rich fishing grounds of the west coast of Ireland? In the spring of 25, when they will want to harvest 200,000 or maybe 300,000 tonne of blue whiting, when is there going to be a proper fight by this government to actually fight for our fishermen? Ireland has slightly over 3% of the total allowance catch for blue whiting, 68,000 tonne, and the vast majority of that stock is born and bred in our waters. Where is the backbone for Ireland to stand up in Europe and seek for zonal attachment for fish in our waters? Why can't our minister or department make a claim for 30% of the blue whiting and still be fishing within the total allowable catch? It's no difference to what Norwegians have done in the mackerel fishery. This is how the Brexit deal was done. Zonal attachments was used. Why can't it be the same when trying to protect our fishermen in rural communities? And that was the cry that I got last Saturday at the meeting at the AGM in the Maritime Hotel in Bantry. And there's a great anger out there with the pelagic fishermen, and hard to blame them. And they asked the question, why can't we use a veto? Why has our minister never put his hand up and said he's going to use a veto? And another thing is the minister and department and our government just going to sit back and allow the reckless overfishing by Norway, the Faroes, and the Iceland? And why is the EU not putting sanctions in place to stop this? And will the minister be going to help out these fishermen with an aid package? Basically, that's where we're unfortunately heading to that direction again. We're decommissioning before this. Now there's an aid package we're looking for this time.
I suppose to take your first piece is the ICES advice, which was published recently, and that is extremely concerning. That's where we spent the afternoon. We spent it with the fishing industry, looking at the impacts of that. As regards your question in around Ireland utilising a veto, as you know, the Fishing Opportunities Regulation is a qualified majority vote situation, so we cannot exercise a veto. I suppose the EU-Norway negotiations, and again, to be clear, the EU negotiate with third countries. Ireland does not negotiate directly with Norway. And in the EU-Norway negotiations that happen annually, it's basically in relation to a transfer of blue whiting quota to Norway to pay for other fishing opportunities that the EU is seeking. And again, what's really critical for Ireland in that is the level of access to EU waters, and particularly access to Ireland. We do not have an agreement on mackerel, and the activities and the overfishing of the stocks by third countries is something that the Minister has called out regularly. He has equally called for the application of all the levers that the EU has at its disposal. I think what was a new development was the amendment to Regulation 12, not 12, it's of 2012, known as the Faroese Regulation, which is designed to address behaviour by states who don't engage in sustainable fishing. As regards Ireland's position in negotiations, you understand that's a matter for the Minister, and what he has been consistent in is calling out and identifying the activities of overfishing and the impact on the stock, and trying to work with other EU members in addressing those.
Unfortunately, I see that. So I'm like, it is reckless overfishing by Norway and the ferries and the Iceland. And like, why can't that be called out? Why can't that be stopped? Look, I can't have you answer that question. Just one other question, and there's many more, but I might be able to get back in later on. BIM, you know, in fairness, there was great praise for a scheme that's out there for vessels that are granted to do up vessels. But the thing is, they haven't been the pelagic vessels out there that applied for the grant have not been told whether they're going to get the grant or not. And they do get a letter saying they've received their grant application. They're happy with the amount they'll get when they get it. It's about 50%, this is. But they haven't been told whether they're going to get it or not. And a lot of fishermen are having to do quite a lot of improvement works to their vessels and don't know whether they can go ahead with it or well, they have gone ahead with it, but they don't know when is the grant date going to come or not. Do you know anything about this?
Yeah, I actually don't know the operational aspects of that within BIM, but it's something I will come back to you on, Deputy.
Okay, I
I
appreciate
will
that. Thank you.
engage with BIM.